if in pride you can't celebrate with people,
right.
like you're not church.
Exactly.
And even more, to bring it back to what we were talking about this whole episode with race, if you can't mourn with those who mourn and say Black Lives Matter when they haven't, that's not church. So don't come up in here with your all lives matter. Don't come up in here with your I'm a Christian, I don't support you, but that doesn't mean I hate you.
That's right.
I don't want it. Hi, I'm Brandon.
Hey guys, it's Chelsea.
And welcome to the Religious Dropouts podcast.
It was the wave that got you, wasn't it? But if they're not watching it, they can't see the wave. So
I thought it was the pause and the hey, it's Chelsea. It broke. It flipped the script.
I hope that someday we get a pre-recorded thing. And I was listening to a podcast this week where the one goes, "Hey, it's your host, da da da, and it's your host, da da da," and I was like, "Oh, that might be easy to remember." But for some reason, no matter how we say "hey," it's awkward. So
it's
that's
uncomfortable every time. Mm-hmm. I wonder if it's uncomfortable for our listeners.
Yeah, you guys, let us know how Akko Taco you get when you hear us say, "Hey, what's up?"
That's right.
So life updates, what's up? Give us the tea. This is a Handles. It's like an icy freezy thing. So it's like orange sherbet and then like some Sprite, like everything I shouldn't be drinking, but it's great.
What's a guy got to do to get that Handles good hat?
Oh, yeah. Remember, didn't we ask him if we can get the hat once?
Them and they wouldn't give it. They wouldn't let me buy one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Love and local ice cream store. Life update. Man. I know I feel like I have talked about Grand Rapids every episode, but I actually am moving to Grand Rapids.
Well, between the new job and now actually about to live there, like it's fair.
That's moving fair. Saturday. Yeah. So that's pretty much the life update. I haven't seen Spider-Man. I'm a failure in that aspect.
Yeah, it's been how long has it been out now?
Oh, probably 3 weeks. I feel real embarrassed about that. Maybe 2.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's it. That's my life update. I'll think of stuff in the episode and I'll shout it out.
Big move to Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
I had a pretty serious surgery after the Pride episode, even though then we launched episode 7 after that, but my surgery was, in between there because we had pre-recorded. So I'm 4 weeks post-op tomorrow. They took 15 pounds of excess skin off my body. So that was quite a whirlwind. So it was a pretty serious surgery, and the recovery's been, it's been okay, but I feel like it's finally getting better. Like I'm finally feeling like I'm getting on the other side. And the one thing I think people don't talk about a lot is the emotional toll of recovery. So if anyone that listens to our podcast has ever been through surgery, when you have kind of that recovery period where maybe you're off work or whatever, I did not realize how lonely that time would be. And then how much you struggle internally asking people for help. So like you already have to lean on other people and ask for help, which for someone like me already sucks. And then you're like on top of it, just kind of lonely. And you're like, man, this really is shitty. So it was really, really tough. So I'm really happy to start being on the other side now. I'm getting to be doing some lifts now. I got approved for some lifting and back at Oaks. And the first day that I was back at Oaks, I walked in the door and immediately someone called about a domestic dispute and 8,000 other things within 5 minutes. So
wow,
I feel pretty good about being back.
I bet I can't believe that. And I think also you would say all those times when it doesn't go your way in recovery, that contributes to the emotional well-being. And
you don't ever expect to have any issues or and then you do, and you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When you're defeated.
So for sure. Yeah.
The life implications, like you're just trying to get back to work. Do you know what I
I
mean?
know.
Like, you want the recovery to happen,
Yeah.
but like
Yep.
you need that stuff for income and all of that.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
100%. My
Yeah.
aunt has a pretty aggressive form of cancer, leiomyosarcoma, and it made me think a lot about her in this time. Like, God, I mean, she had to leave her job. She,
Mm,
goes through these weeks with chemo where like she feels great and everything's good, and then everything feels horrible, and it just kind of made you think about how much strength people have when they're going through, all your dad went
yeah.
through. So I guess just a big shout out today to people who are caretakers or people who've gone through surgery or people who have family or people they love going through stuff like that. I mean, we just sometimes take our health for granted, and man, I feel pretty sad about how often we do that, but it's made me really put some things in perspective these last 4 weeks.
I think shout out to workplaces that are lenient or even more than that generous. Like, how
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. What I wanted to say though is this would normally be a spot for keyboard warriors.
Sure would.
Um, and so I want to say that if you were watching our Pride episode, and it's weird because I don't know that like we want to like if you didn't watch it, then that's on you. You know what I mean? You
Hmm.
don't know. So if you know, you
You're
know.
left out.
But yeah, exactly. But I was gonna say I was just ready. My skin was thick. We'd had conversations leading up to that week a couple different times and that day. And I just was like, what if you make decisions like this, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So like you played a stupid game, you were honest, prepare for DMs to roll in. And it was just nothing but the most beautiful responses
Hmm.
from so many people. Um and so I just want to say like I think it means two things. Number one, our warriors must not like being in the spotlight, which I thought's awesome. Because now that we're like reading all their garbage, all of a sudden that we're not seeing our warriors, like they might end up on the internet. You know what I mean? Something weird.
Yeah.
But also I thought number two, it might mean that we've reached kind of like we're starting to find our people. Where if
Yeah.
you are a hater, like you've realized this is what you're gonna get. So like leave us alone, maybe,
I knew there'd be a threshold. I knew there was an episode 10, an episode 8 or something, but I didn't think it'd be an episode 6. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Oh, you're right.
it's getting quiet,
I
but
thought I thought
it's
our
watching. I
what'd you
know
say?
they're listening, but I know the viewers are listening. I know they're watching.
I want to ask so bad how you know, but we can't talk about that here. You guys, we do know in a lot of ways, but you just have to know that and I guess I'm talking directly to you, but like if you listen to us because you hate us, somebody in your circle's telling us, man. Like we get people all the time that tell us, like, hey, my friend da 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 tried to say, and it's just like, when will they learn? Like, dude, somebody that's around you likes us. So unfortunately, whether you think so or not, they're still telling us.
It's
So
wild because I wish you got like I'm not really asking for blind loyalty, but it is
yeah,
interesting. Like you can't be loyal to us, but you ain't loyal to that.
yeah, 100%. That's exactly how it is. They'll be like, I'm not putting the Religious Dropouts podcast sticker on my car, but I'll tap their bumper a little bit when they talk shit. And you're like, okay, that I guess that's fine.
For
Fine.
sure.
So do you have that picture of that was in Colorado? I'm gonna have Brandon get this picture if he can.
Yeah,
But
I
it was
got
a
it.
screenshot that Cody sent to us. Um, and he was in Colorado, right? There was an NBA like celebration.
Yep.
And do you want to tell him what the sign said?
Yeah, I got you. Um, so Cody's at a I don't know what's the Denver basketball team. They won the
So
tournament. And
yeah, they won something in sports. No
they
clue.
sported their butts off
They did,
and
and they
they
won some
won
kind
it.
of trophy. Mhm.
What?
And they won some kind of trophy.
They did. They won it. So Cody and about 700,000 people take to the streets And there's a rally. They were celebrating, and they should. I guess it's been a long time for Denver, if anything. But anyways, Cody finds this guy, or this guy is just in the way of the stage,
Like
which
in the front row.
and we'll put the picture up, but it's like a 3-tier sign that says, "Prepare to meet thy God," and then repent, turn from your sin to Jesus. And then it says, God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah as an example to all who after will live ungodly.
Yeah, when you guys, and it's so, if you're listening and you're not seeing this, then you're gonna miss the 3-level signage that this is. So be sure that you go back and go to the YouTube and actually see this.
It's 11 by 8.5 with another 8.5 with another 8.5.
Yeah,
Actually,
but I just love that it says
those could be
prepare
bigger.
to meet thy God. I love it.
I love how King James it is too.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Except the font looks very modern. So who knows? Anyway, weird. But yeah, so we didn't really have a keyboard warrior, but I thought, what's better than if you don't have someone hating on your stuff than a guy in the front row of this beautiful basketball celebration reminding everyone that they will be burning in hell for the rest of their lives.
It's the basketballers that need that a lot too.
Yeah, like of all places you could be. Yeah, for sure.
Have you ever left something at home, Chelsea, like a cell phone, a wallet, a key, or something? Your keys? Yeah. Imagine this dude leaving his house that day, going to the basketball NBA rally and being like, shit, I forgot my 3-tier sign telling people to repent.
Wait, did I put enough hell on it? Like, and I wonder if the other side, like, we're only seeing the side that Cody, like, was he showing to the state or the actual players? Was there more on that side? You always have questions, you know.
Always questions.
Well, we're kind of going to switch gears, and I wore a special shirt today. It says Jesus hates racism, but he loves the racist. And I love this shirt, but I wore it specifically today because Brandon and I have really wanted to have a conversation about race on this podcast. And we're not really going to just be like two white people who sit and have this conversation. We're just going to share like some of our thoughts. We have some very general questions, and we've sent these questions that we're going to talk about, just him and I right here, to a couple of our friends who are Black, and minister, and one of them is a minister actually. And so hopefully like in the coming weeks, we'll get those responses back and we'll be able to like share those videos, and we'll kind of come back to this conversation. So I know this is not like a one-time thing. So I just want to make sure, you know, like, why would you listen to us about race? Well, you wouldn't, but you can listen to our experiences. And that's really what we kind of want to share. I have the questions. I just pulled them up.
Yeah.
And in the first one, I'll kind of like, if you're cool, I'll kind of shoot them to you, and then we can kind of just do this back and forth. Mm-hmm. But the first thing I kind of had was that, like, when did you realize racism was a problem or still like current? Like, when did you realize that it wasn't something you learned in 4th grade, but like literally every day? Kind of what was that experience like for you?
When George Floyd, when he was murdered, and I started to find my languaging about how I was going to speak about that, with my friends, with my family, with anybody on my social media, finding those words told me racism was an issue, because I was messing up a lot. I didn't understand. I didn't understand what was happening. At that point, as I've come to learn, Black Lives Matter was a thing for 4 years, and the murder of Black people on the streets has been a thing for hundreds of years.
Right.
But the fact that it was still there today, I came to grips with that murder of like, no, I just don't think I can explain this away of like, he should have acted better. He should have known how to handle himself in front of police, what did he do? All of those questions I started to drop at the door because this was obviously an issue.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that kind of began my research, my podcasting, and all of that. Everything I started to learn from. That began to be really pivotal. Equally as pivotal is the opposition I got from white friends and family.
It was like the
Equally as
first time you
pivotal.
saw what racism looked like played out. It's how
Yep.
people treated you for caring about it.
Yep.
Yeah. I would say my dad was the first person that I ever heard say the N-word.
Mm.
And um and I don't know, I thought it was normal. I thought that, like, I don't know. And then I think there was a time where I don't know. I just feel like there was never a time when my dad was calling people N-words, and like, cuz my dad was definitely racist. And I mean, I haven't talked to my family really in like a year. My dad and stuff, but if by chance he listens to this podcast, I definitely first experienced racism from him.
Yeah.
And then I kind of forgot, right? Like I had, we got a black friend, I mean, like I have a lot of black people in my life. I
Yeah.
just and they never told me, like, it's not like we ever sat around and they were like, oh, this horrible experience happened to me when I was at, like, I didn't know. I had no idea that it was still even, I'm like, oh, that's history. That's old news. And then I would agree with you. It resurfaced when the murder of George Floyd happened. It really opened my eyes to, like, how much have I not been seeing, because that door opened up and then shared tons of other deaths that have happened in the, like if you're paying
Yeah.
attention now, pay attention to these. And then it opened and you're like, and so then you're reading those stories and you're like, wait a minute, this happens frequently, and it's this, there is not an explanation that is
Yeah.
fair. Like, black people are alarmingly dying at the
Mhm.
hands of, like, white cops, and like, it was, I don't know, it was just like, wow, I didn't know. I had no idea.
And I think that was the first time that I saw black athletes, actresses, black musicians or rappers. I think I saw their cries and their pain and actually started to listen. Because
Yeah.
before, I know there's artists that I celebrated their gifts, but I didn't listen to their perspectives.
Yeah.
Um, but then I felt like I had the eyes to see, the ears to hear,
Yeah.
of like, oh, this was here all along, and I'm sorry I blew you off as that was a black issue, and
Right. Or
now
right. Like,
and
I don't
now
need to think about this.
now I see that it's a white problem
Yeah.
and an American one, for the record. Like, although
Yeah.
I do know racism exists all over the world,
Right. Right. That's
America's
true.
unique. We're very special in a
Yeah.
cringy way.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Did you talk about racism ever in any church spaces before the murder of George Floyd?
No. No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's so weird to me is I'm like, you don't, so you're telling me before the murder of George Floyd, which was, what was it, 3 years ago? I don't know. I should have looked up the timeline,
Yeah,
but
3 years. It was May of 2020.
the the 6 years before that, no black person in any congregation I was in was ever discriminated against. No black people that were ever in our churches had stories to share. Like, it's like, that's bullshit. So, like, I was in the church for all these years before George Floyd, and never once did a pastor ever preach about racism or being anti-racist. God forbid they miss a week on homophobia, but they
Hmm.
never talked about being anti, and that's wild to me.
Yeah. And that's including us for some years. Like, I didn't talk about justice or our responsibility to minorities as white people. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't I didn't teach on that. Like, um and I guess I just don't know what it was, besides I wasn't in very diverse churches.
Well, and we didn't have leaders like what you learn, and a lot of the training you get on preaching and And any of
That's
those,
true.
like the topics, the series, though, that comes from your leadership, and we were
Yeah.
never had pastors. And so it's like shame on any leadership that, like,
Yep.
why was that not ever a conversation just in general? Like,
Yeah.
why did it take that for it to be important? It's sad. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
thankful every day, but I'm
Totally.
sad. But so I was thinking about that same track. How did it, like, because we were both at churches when that happened, when George Floyd was murdered and the news broke. What did your church do? Like, what did they say after the dust settled? So maybe let's not put something on them, the day it happened, did they put out? But within the coming, let's say month or so, what was the posture and the words out of the church you worked at?
There were none. I did try to advocate for something from the stage, and that it didn't seem like that was a thing. I think I started to have some messages and some conversations around the office around race and the responsibility of church and really the role of Christianity in racism. And that I know I had several times uh, where I was reprimanded or called on because I wore this shirt here to a I'm wearing a Matter is the Minimum t-shirt, and I wore it to a like fall festival, and I know there was a dad that called the pastor, and then that pastor told him to call me, and and because I was a example to their kid, I should not have worn this shirt. So
Oh my God. The parent called you or your
yeah,
pastor called you?
that parent called the pastor first, and then the pastor said, "Well, why don't you call Brandon?"
And really, the pastor should have had your back. Number one, like number one, no, don't call Brent.
Probably.
We're not going to talk about that. Like he's a pastor on staff. That's a shirt he was wearing. It doesn't offend. That's not. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah,
Like, so screw you too for
I
like.
know.
And he was a jerk, dude. God, I'm so I can't
Hmm.
with that guy. There's times on the podcast where I wish you could just name drop, dude, and someday maybe,
I
but
know.
God, it's like, dude. And then more people like, and they're always still in the pulpit. Like these dudes, like, and I say dudes because haven't had the same experience with a woman yet, but like
Yeah,
these dudes continually do the shittiest stuff and
yeah,
are just the most ridiculous leaders, and they just still stand behind the pulpit. It's like, come on.
yeah.
It's just unreal. Unreal.
Well, it's always funny how the the
Um,
the like district's hands are tied when, or like their leadership's hands are tied whenever like it's whenever the white dude messes up, like the
always,
white
yeah.
senior pastors, and
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
if it's anybody other than a white man, like
Totally.
their hands are not tied at all. They can do all the work that they need to.
And we've literally seen it. Like we've literally seen it play out where you've
Yeah,
got a woman in leadership and a white male in leadership and maybe like a black man in leadership and put them all three in very similar situations. We've literally seen that happen. This is not just like us gossiping. Like, no, and somehow the white male is still in the same position, same
yeah.
privilege, no issues, but the the other two are
And our audience
gone.
has seen it too. Don't like most statistics and stories would match this kind of a situation here. So
Yeah, so don't shy away from, thinking you
how did
haven't seen it. Yeah.
for you did what was your church experience like after responding to George Floyd?
Yeah, we were awesome. So I was ministering in a town called Chelsea, and I don't mind name dropping that. My last church
Hmm.
was Chelsea Nazarene. They were amazing. The church was amazing. Most of the people were amazing. Students were incredible. So I mean, it was a great environment. My last like pastorate position. And, right away after that happened, we had a few young adults in leadership that were like, we have to do something about this. And our head pastor kind of said, well, then you have to do something about it. Like, what do you want to do? And
Hmm.
her name's Abby. and Abby actually put together a racial reconciliation service that we held at the church. And it was beautiful. And I'll never forget one of our oldest couples that attended the church. They had asked a question about it and they were very inquisitive, right? And regardless of what they believed and regardless of what they were, thought they had heard or knew, they opened up their minds and their heart to come to that service. And they had said at the end of it that like it was incredibly beautiful for them and they're so glad that they went. And so it was just a beautiful service, beautiful idea, and just a beautiful way to kind of bridge the gap between like this is not a political issue. It's not a
Right.
generational issue. This is like actually like a human rights issue. And in order to be anti-racist, we've got to address it and offer a bridge.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really beautiful response for a very, very predominantly white church in a very, very conservative area. It was a really cool decision on our leadership's end.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, we talked about that church before, but just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I was thinking about, when we were having this conversation was a lot of things I've learned about racism, and what it looks like and how to call it out and how to find the boldness to call it out. It didn't come from anything I just kind of learned. It came from actually books that I read. And so that kind of made me think about different, like what our favorite books were that were kind of transformational for us. And I just wondered if you wanted to kind of share a couple of those, and I wrote down a couple too.
Yeah. I think initially to give me perspective, I did a lot of YouTube videos. I couldn't list the YouTube videos of Black content creators, whether they're theologians or pastors or authors that and white ones too, that sat and listened and asked questions. Yeah. I watched videos hard and listened to podcasts hard and for the whole next 6 months, I think. But books that really gave me some perspective that I really loved. I listened to a book by Austin Channing Brown that is called I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness. And I loved that book. Austin is a phenomenal storyteller.
Yeah.
And her perspective was incredible, especially because of her experience in many churches, many denominations, and that was amazing because I could relate to that aspect of it. But the best part about this book and the one that I'm going to say next is I can relate and I also cannot relate. Do you know what I'm saying? When you read these books, it's like I can see myself in their story, but I know I'm not them.
Yeah, right.
I know I'm the one that the teacher references things that relate to white people instead of the things that relate to Black people. I know I'm the one that gets the job application because my name is white instead of somebody else. Sorry. If your name's Cody and you're my brother, you're calling during the podcast. That's on you.
And if your name's Brandon and your phone's on loud, that's on you.
Shoot. She called me.
No, but for real, I was going to say Jackie said that as well. Jackie, Brandon's wife, her and I were having a conversation and talking about our favorite anti-racist literature. And she actually said the same thing about I'm Still Here. So a couple people have recommended that. So yeah, I have not read that one. I read probably 3 books that like educated and changed me. But there was only one that I would say fully encompassed like the phrase, like I was transformed. And there's a section of this book where, and this is like the one thing I'll say, right? Cause like some of you have read it, you're going to be like, oh my gosh. And then other of you like, don't want to hear me give a whole synopsis of the book. But there's one part of the book where they say, have you ever been in the grocery store? And the premise of this book is they ask a lot of questions, right? Like the person of color asking the white person that's listening, right? because the book's called
Mhm.
White Fragility. And so there's a part of the book where the author says something like, have you ever been in the supermarket and your kid has said, oh, mommy, look, that person's skin is black. And as the listener of the audiobook, because I had it on Audible, I was literally like, oh, yeah, oh, man. And then she's like, it was awkward, wasn't it? And uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And she's like, why? And I'm like, well, just because. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, why do you think it was? I'm like waiting for her to
Mhm.
teach the lesson, right? But basically, the lesson was like, that's not uncomfortable. Yes, that is a beautiful person of color. What do you notice about them that's different than you? Like, why are you so weird that you can't even talk about the color of another person's skin? Like like that is racist. And you don't
Mhm.
have to label it that way or think you are racist, but you've got to understand like that's exactly what racism is. Part of racism is this inability to have these conversations on race. And so ever since like that section, I like started the book over because it was kind of like in the middle and I was like, oh, I've not been paying attention enough. And then I kind of re-listened and it was like story after story that just totally transformed the way you teach and learn and hear.
Mhm.
It was amazing.
I
Yeah.
haven't
Oh,
actually read that
it's,
book yet, and I know I need to. So,
oh, yeah, I'll do that with this. I'm still here too. And this
my
last one, I'm
second
right on the same page with you.
what?
I said your last one, I'm right on the same page with you. I loved this one as well.
Okay, this one, this one's really good. It was called "All the White Friends I Couldn't Keep" by Andre Henry. Um, what's amazing about this one is he starts off and basically says like, if you're white, I don't write this book for you, but feel free to like listen. And so I did. I continued to listen. Um, and what I would say, Chelsea, is like this one made me feel the emotion of somebody frustrated with racism
Yeah.
and how deep it can hit. It can affect your family and your friends.
Yeah.
How deep it can affect how you choose to identify. Um, and so, I mean, Andre talks about how he's a even a as a black man, he's a Jamaican American, and how he identified with his culture was twisted because of how white churches have told him to reject some of that, what
Yeah.
indirectly or directly. Um, but what I loved about that book, oh gosh, what I loved about that book is how he talked about the patience he had for family and friends that didn't get it. And then once he started embracing his blackness, how fast those family and friends started to excommunicate him, call him the problem, and things like that, all because they were uncomfortable, kind of like white fragility.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so he kind of learns who he needs and who he doesn't kind of going forward and uh in his embrace of himself and in his mourning for people that have been I want to say victims of systemic racism.
Yeah.
um but yeah, he actually has a great YouTube video that I might link. He talks
Yeah.
with
That'd be awesome.
Austin Channing Brown, and I loved that video. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome if you do find it. I was gonna say that the other one that really impacted me was How to Be Anti-Racist. And the
Hmm.
author of that book actually wrote like a kid's book, like Anti-Racist Baby or something, and like has written a couple different like spin-offs of that book. But it's like a manual and like an actual guide, but like it's also like his memoir. And I found this quote actually when I was looking up the book cover to put in our show notes for like what we were going to talk about today. But the quote says, fighting anti-racism is like fighting an addiction. Being an anti-racist requires persistent self-awareness, constant self-criticism, and regular self-examination.
Yeah.
And he's just amazing. And I thought that quote was so powerful. And that's from the book. But it was really it was really awesome to me, and very tangible and emotional. And I really love that one too. But
Yeah.
I remember I had a situation in my family this year, and this makes me think of like action when you say take action. And this is
Yeah.
probably like for me the last thing I'll kind of share here about this, because we do have a couple other things we want to talk about today. But
Okay.
I will say and that doesn't mean you can't share too. I just wanted to say, like, for me, I think this will be the last thing I'll share. But I
Yeah.
remember I had a really hard conversation with someone in my family who said something racist on a text thread. And
Mm-hmm.
I responded and said, like, please don't speak like that. It's disgusting. Like, do not speak like that around me again
Yeah.
about people of color. And my mom, I remember having a conversation with my mom after, and my mom, who is an amazing person, right? And
Yep.
is very, I feel like my mom is someone who's always learning, and like has never been someone that when I've tried to educate her, she shot me down. She might ask
Yeah.
annoying questions that you're like, you're insinuating something you shouldn't be. But like, you know what I mean? Like, because it's my mom, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, she's a learner. And I remember this conversation with my mom where my mom was like, but you know that this person is that way. So just let it go. Like, why do you need to like just you know they're that way. You're not gonna change them. And I said, that's literally racist. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's literally you being okay with someone that's racist, putting that out to a group of people, and you just let it happen. You're just as guilty as what's coming out of their mouth. And I love my
Mm-hmm.
mom, right? But like that's the reality. So for like you just said, not only are you standing on the conveyor belt going backwards, you know, you're not helping society in any way by being quiet or by
Yeah.
letting racism be something that you don't take action against, but you are also going to own that title yourself. Don't tell me that you're not racist, but you won't speak out against it. Don't
Right.
tell me that you're not racist, but you'll like the Facebook meme. Like, don't tell me that you're not racist, but you won't pick up the book. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, if the shoe fits. So, are we calling everybody racist that hasn't picked up a book? No, but it's time for action. Then you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, you need to move your ass. Like this matters. So you know,
Listening is just a great start too. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's low investment.
yep, yep. Um, so we saw this quote circulating on Facebook
The
by
internet.
all these people. And the best part about this quote was I saw it shared by some unbelievably conservative people I knew. And I saw this quote being shared by a couple unbelievable liberal people that I knew. So it perked my ears, right? Like I was like, let me just like listen in on what's going on. So I'm going to read the quote, and then Brandon, I don't know if you want to pull up some of those screenshots and maybe just read the first couple, and then I can kind of hop in too, because we put this quote on our Instagram with you guys,
Yeah, we did.
Dropouts and Delinquents, which if you haven't joined our Facebook group, please do. We're just kind of building up in there. But here's the quote. Just because a Christian, that's the voice I feel. I can't help it. Just because a Christian won't support something doesn't mean that they hate the people involved in it. That's the quote. Out of that quote, we got tons of responses. So,
Yeah.
Brandon, you want to take it away reading a few of those? Starting this
Yeah.
perfect.
This person says, and I really love this one, I think. I think. I think the question being, sorry, I just feel like I need to restart. Just because a Christian won't support something doesn't mean that they hate the people involved in it. This person says, I think it can and should be true of Christians. We're called to love everyone and inversely not hate anyone, but that's not how it usually looks. For me, that looks like the difference between acceptance and approval. There are groups of people whose beliefs I fundamentally disagree with, but I don't hate those people. I believe we're called to accept those differences and still have relationship, even if we may never see eye to eye on some things. You win people to Jesus through relationships and love, not through arguments. Yeah, I do love that.
Yeah. Um, So we asked people, do you agree with this?
Yeah.
So that person pretty much kind of said yes. Most people did say no, I will
Oh, I
say
don't
that.
know if they said yes.
Oh, did they? I thought that was how it was kind of framed, that they agreed with it. I thought that's how it started. I'm sorry. What did the
That
first
could
line
be
say?
in the it's complicated box where they're saying like we're never uh well, I guess that would be agreeing with it. Let me think.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry
I'll
for
let
our
you think on that, but I'm
Yep.
going to read this next one because it's short. These are just two short ones. This one says, they sure as hell don't love the people, though. It's love everyone, not don't hate everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was an interesting take on the word support. Like
Yeah.
it's not about tolerating us, because the Bible calls you to love us. Like people that you don't agree with or don't support, you're not called to tolerate, you're called to love. And I thought that was interesting to get out of that statement.
Yeah.
And then this really short one too said, Glennon Doyle talks about something similar in her book Untamed. And she does. She talks a lot about like the about this type of like, I love you, but I just don't agree with it. And what happened when she had that with her own family when she came out. So really beautiful there too. But anyway, do you want to
Yeah.
read another one?
This person says maybe they dislike or are pushing themselves away from the people, but I don't think that hate is the right word. When they don't support, they still will care about and love the people. If they don't, then they aren't worshiping Daddy Jesus. It's gross, and I can't believe this person is making me read his quote.
Yeah, that makes
They
me
know how we
feel
feel.
like
Ugh.
it makes you feel a little cringy that they said that.
Yeah,
Um,
he knows how we feel about this.
so this one
Don't read the one I
is a
want.
long one.
Shoot.
To me, those two.
Dang it. Because it
Okay, I got
ends
this.
so good. That's okay.
So my no, I got another one. So my take, it's all fine and dandy if Christians or anyone for that matter doesn't support something. Like I don't support putting ketchup on mac and cheese. Obviously, hopefully nobody supports that because that's disgusting. But I don't make it a huge deal, although we should. And I tell people they're going to hell because they do that. If that's the kind of thing they're into. A silly analogy, but that's fine if they don't support something is the point. But there's no reason to make other people feel unworthy of basic human rights, respect, and love just because you don't support it. I'm
Mhm.
not starting a petition or voting to ban people from putting ketchup on their mac and cheese. FFS.
So I should read this, and then I can't wait to talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay, this one says, to me, those two things are hard to exist at the same time, but I feel like they partially can. I just think Christians who say they are in severe denial of their fear or dislike of whatever group this pertains to. They don't want you to confront the negative emotions they truly have because it's shameful. I don't think they want to hate others, but to not support people who literally do nothing wrong can feel very
Ooh.
hateful and exclusionary. As my mom says, I don't hate you for being bisexual or love you any less, but you're going to burn in hell and you're a sinner and need saved. To me, those two things don't make any sense in the same sentence. Does she hate me? No. But does she have 100% love and care and support for my entire personhood? Absolutely not. I think
That's
I'm
a
leaving. I think I came in here a little bit like, ooh, I don't know. But I think I'm getting more clear words to what I would probably say about this.
so um this one says I feel like this one's probably my answer, but I don't know yet. I see it like this. If you hate someone for being gay, but you say you don't hate the person, just what they participate in, it's saying that being gay is their choice. In
Mm,
reality, it's not a choice.
yeah.
Being gay can make someone who they are, the experiences they've had growing up gay, what they've had to learn about being gay, showing their pride and being a part of the LGBTQ plus community is literally what makes them who they are. So it's ridiculous to say I don't support you, but I still love you. I've
Yeah.
had this argument with many family members, so I was prepared.
Yeah. Why do you think
Um,
so many people, for a post that doesn't necessarily say anything about LGBTQ plus, why do you think so many people are connecting that dot?
you know, it's so funny because I know you're going to ask me all these questions now that people know I'm gay. I'm just kidding. Like your token black friend. Like I'm now the token gay on the no. My pastor says
It's
that all the
actually
time.
my
She
token
always says
bisexual.
that. What?
My token bisexual friend,
Yeah,
Chelsea.
exactly. My pastor says that all the time about one particular person, which I won't say, but she's like, he ain't actually doing anything. He's just a token black friend who they get to tote around. And he's like this guy who literally does nothing good that he should. So anyway, but it says, but he's cool with being that, right? Because he gets leadership, but it's still so crappy.
Mm,
Just because a Christian won't support something doesn't mean that they hate the people involved in it. Because I think this is what every Christian says to every damn gay person. They'd be like, I don't support what you're doing. And it's like, wait, like just back up though. What am I doing? And I think what a lot of people have gotten from this quote um, is I think a lot of the people that shared this quote also are thinking about gay people. And I think they're
mhm.
thinking in their head, I don't support pride. I don't support gay people, but it doesn't mean I am a homophobe. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well then just let's back up a second. What is it about it that you don't support? Now you're a homophobe because there's no reason you wouldn't support it.
You gotta love that the graphic is strictly black and white and not one freaking color on during the month of June.
Insert the SpongeBob rainbow. But for real, I really think that's what it
Yeah.
is. I really think that like no one's homophobic for just saying they don't agree with gay people. They're only homophobic when they try to explain it away. It's like, stop.
I think what I've learned is that things like love and support, uh, it all is evidence based. So like I'm not gonna take your word and say you support me, but yet I've never seen you show up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Ask the kids whose parents didn't show up for their like sporting events and ask them if their parents supports them. Like, and I know that's not everybody's situation. Maybe their mom works or something like that. But that's what I'm saying is the core like correlation is support is like, do you put effort forth? So like these people that
Yeah.
want to give virtually social media lip service to say like, hey, it's weird because in one hand I think they might even want to say something like they're trying. Maybe I'm wrong, but like they want to say like just because I don't chime in this month of Pride doesn't mean I hate you, but they're not saying
You
I'm
know,
with you at
you know,
all.
you know what I'll say is it's so funny. I don't know how to explain to you how many people say, and hopefully some of you are listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I know we're going a little long,
No,
but
because
man, I
they
hope
don't
I
hate
hope some
us, but
people
they
are.
can't support us.
And I'm just like, I sat with so many people that said to me, I'm affirming. I believe in the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah,
But I also, and they're still sitting in the Nazarene church and they're still pastors. And
yeah,
shame on all of you. And some of my friends will not be my friends after this episode comes out because I said that. And I'm not sorry. I'm not
yeah,
sorry because people like me deserve your defense. People,
yep,
people like Cody deserve your defense. People like the gay kid in your youth group deserve for you to grow up and stand
yep,
up for what you really believe in, which you believe that being gay is okay. But you're quiet because you're family. You're quiet because your boss. Like people are dying. It's a joke. Like you're done. Like, and the tolerance level I used to have for people that sat on the sidelines has incredibly diminished as I have watched the sacrifices I've had to make to be one with what I believe and what God's calling me to be about, which is love, loving everybody. And if you're not inclusive in that in the
right,
public, then sit the down.
yep. This to me struck a chord with like scripture um, where in Acts Paul's describing a church that they mourn with those who mourn and they what is it? Rejoice with those who rejoice.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
in Pride you can't celebrate with people,
Right.
like you're not church.
Exactly.
And even more to bring it back to what we were talking about this whole episode with race, if you can't mourn with those who mourn and say Black Lives Matter when they haven't, that's not church. So don't
Right.
come up in here with your all lives matter. Don't come up
No.
in here
No.
with your I'm a Christian, I don't support you, but that doesn't mean I hate you.
That's right.
I don't want it.
Yeah. And that's how I feel too. Like, you don't support me, then you might as well hate me. Like,
Yeah,
just don't. Can you imagine saying that to someone you love? That's not doing anything inherently wrong, right?
yeah,
I can think of, oh, you found a gun in their backpack and it's this crazy, they shouldn't have had a gun and they're like talking about murder. Okay, like, come on. Like, there are very clear situations where you're not going to be like, well, I support that and I love you no matter
yeah,
what. Like, come on. Like, we're not being reckless with our words here, but the reality is, like, when it comes to these social justice issues, stop. Like, just stop painting
yeah,
this picture. I don't support you. Then
yeah,
get the out.
yeah,
I mean, that's what's so hard about quotes like this. I respect and love the people that kind of towed that middle line that said, I do kind of agree with this, or I do agree with this.
yeah,
But for me, you're being in a people group that is so hated by the church. I feel like if you're saying this quote, if you're saying, I don't support you, but I don't hate you.
yeah,
Okay, well, I got a lot of people who do support me, including God and a lot of my friends and family. I don't need anything to do with you if you don't.
yeah,
Unless I'm doing something that is hurting other people, right? Or certain things like that. But you have no excuse to. That's not that cute quote doesn't give you a free pass. I'm sorry.
no. And I
It's a
think
no.
so many people love to find something real quippy and then they ride that to death.
They love it. They love
They
it.
love it.
Yep. They love a good what's the guy from Mars Hill, Mark Driscoll? They love a good Mark Driscoll little bomb real quick and then just
Mm.
and then they just, there's a pastor I see sometimes on social media that'll probably delete me after. I mean, I always expect they'll delete me after I bring them up, but they don't yet.
Yeah,
But who makes a post that's like can be kind of controversial and then won't comment on the whole thing, will not comment back to anybody, and it's like, do
or
you
will
really believe
delete your
what you're
comment.
saying?
He'll delete
Or
your comment, but then private message you and say, "Sorry, I'm just not creating an atmosphere of."
I feel like my stomach hurts. I feel like with each episode, our audacity grows. Like, I got a couple other people that really piss me off. Let me just bring that up real quick. But no, I did want to share. My friend Andrew posted this,
Okay.
and I wanted to share this super quick because I thought it was like really beautiful, because I thought it almost went along with this quote, like, I don't support you, but I don't hate you. And it's like, But so he said, he celebrated Pride this weekend, and he basically said this caption. He said he wore a shirt that said "Free Dad Hugs" on it.
Hmm.
And he said, Pride continued as I hung out at our church booth. Their church had a booth at Pride. And we shared water bottles and hugs with young adults who shared stories of disownment and hurt. Pride was marked by smiles and hugs from strangers who were there to celebrate love without condition. Pride is something that is still needed for those who are still judged for who they love as they traverse this life. I was glad to hug dozens as a surrogate father today, and I will always be a safe space for those who have none. And although this was not an episode about Pride, I thought about that when I thought about this quote, because I thought it is the saddest thing in the world that a man would wear a Free Dad Hugs shirt to Pride and have dozens of people need to hug him.
Yeah.
That should shatter your soul. And it should shatter you enough to say, I've got to get honest about my convictions. I have to stand up for these people that have been marginalized. And that includes being anti-racist. That includes being homophobic. It includes being like pro and having an affirming theology, welcoming people of color into your building. And if they're not there, then again, you're missing it somewhere. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, so it's just time. I mean, it's just really like, it's exhausting to have to keep having these conversations about why the church sucks so bad at being anti-racist and why the church sucks so bad at being free dad hugs, which is exactly what God would ask them to do. But they'd be the first people with picket signs at the gate.
It's crazy. And I so wish to get away from as a Christian, I need to either give the world my thumbs up or my thumbs down.
You're right.
I really wish that we learned as Christians that our thumbs are irrelevant.
Yeah, to be quiet.
Yep.
To be quiet. Yeah. I think it is a gift to have this platform. And I will say that I know it's not easy for people who are listening to this. And I know that they're listening to this because they talk to me and they talk to you, who are listening to this, who are scared. You know, like I think being fearful of speaking out, being fearful of like, it is scary and it comes at a cost.
Yeah.
But being silent comes at a much greater cost.
Yeah.
And that's something that is between you and God. But I can promise you that it comes at a way greater cost than just speaking up for marginalized people and being Definitely. Who God was his entire ministry and still continues to be.
We do love you. We do thank you for being here. And we hope that if you are wrestling, that this is a space where you're challenged. You might not agree with everything, but that's okay. And that's why we're here.
Yeah. And I'll share a couple of resources super quick as we kind of hop off today. But if you go to the trevorproject.com, they are an amazing organization for LGBTQ teens and people kind of struggling with this identity. And they have a quick exit strategy so that no one sees you on the website if you've got to get off of it real quick. Gives great. Tons of support that way. And then the other number I wanted to give you was 988, which is the suicide hotline. And I just think like when you're wrestling with some of these, if you've been a victim of racism, not only your whole life, but especially in these last 4 years, like if you're really wrestling with some of that, if you're really wrestling with your identity in the LGBT community, like we don't know where you are, and we might not be able to just be a safe space and let it end there. And so if you still need more safe places, that number is 988 and it's the suicide hotline. And then we do want to tell you super quick, and we'll put this in the show notes, Beham, if that's cool with you, but our next episode is our camp episode. So you actually still have a few days to call in and share your stories, which we were not going to have time for that, but now we do. So we give you a couple extra days of grace to call in with your camp stories. We've got a couple good ones. We'd love more. And that number is 419-548-8565. So shoot us a phone call. You just call and literally leave a voicemail. It takes 2 seconds. So we'd love to hear your campy stories. Brandon, are you excited about the camp episode?
I am. I'm excited and nervous for the camp episode. I've got to write down a few stories myself because I've got a couple.
I know. I'm sharing some tea. Like, I don't care. What are they going to do? Like, you know what I mean? I just got some tea. So, cheers. You actually have tea. Where's your teacup? What the heck? Brandon's so British. I can't. DMD and Brandon's tea. Anyway, we love you guys.
DMD is the camp story I want to hear, honestly.
Diet Mountain Dew. Yeah, we'll talk about the Diet Mountain Dew thieves. We'll talk about all kinds of shady shenanigans.
Who was that thief? What was his name? We won't spoil the story. All right, see you later, freaks.
We love you guys.
Bye.
Hey, fam. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Religious Dropouts podcast. We hope it gave you a space to breathe, to laugh, and connect. It's our hope that as you journey along with us, that you too might find yourself saying, damn, it feels good to be a dropout. Be sure to check out our show notes for links to anything mentioned in this episode, including ways to connect with us on social media. We'd also love for you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with anyone you know who might want to join our community. You are loved. Have a great week.